meth and its makers. Let's get started with meth and its makers. I want to tell you that I have a real personal interest in terms of this particular program because what I've learned is about 82% of society is going to be a victim of a violent crime sometime in their life. 82% will be a victim of a violent crime in terms of their life. Let's get an idea in this room. How many of you have come close to violence, seen violence done, or been a part of it? Would you please just raise your hand so we can get an idea of what's going on in this room? That's a significant number in this room, and we take a look at over an average of 80 million crimes are going to be committed of violence every year. And you wonder what this has to do with meth. It has everything to do with meth, because what I've learned is that there's no sale and there's no amount of money that's worth risking your life for. When I became a real estate licensee in 1993, all I wanted to do was earn money. I was in Kansas City, Missouri. I didn't know what I was doing. You know, you get your license, you know how to pass the test, and then they go, okay, sell. Just go do it. I had no clue. I spent over 6 months educating myself, trying to figure out how this particular career ran, and I decided by the time I was done that what I wanted to do was provide the best possible real estate service to everybody that hired me, and everyone deserved a competent and excellent licensee, regardless of the sales price of the home. So I got a phone call after about 7 months in the business, and this gentleman had me come into a neighborhood which I call a duck neighborhood in Kansas City, Missouri. A duck neighborhood is the one where if you're showing homes and you have a client in the car, you yell at them to duck because of the drive-by shootings. No! I mean, that's just what we do. That's just what it's called, a duck neighborhood. I happen to have worked up the CMA, the market analysis, and it came out to about $45,000. I walk up to a ramshackle home, knock on the door, and this very, very large, unkempt gentleman opens up the door. He has very foul breath. The home just absolutely reeks. And I'm going, oh boy, this is going to be a good one. He ushers me in and sits me down at the table. Everything's going along perfectly fine. It's going along perfectly fine for the first 20 minutes. And I finally tell him the sales price of the home, which came between $42,000 and $45,000. He receives a phone call on his cell phone. And it goes something like this. What? What? You've got to be kidding me. When's it? I have 5 minutes. Thanks. Don't move. And he moved out of the room. He came back less than 2 minutes later. As he's coming back, he is racking bullets into his gun. He sits down at the table, puts the gun in the middle of the table, and then turns it towards me. He sits back with his arms, and he looks at me. It was fortunate that my mother worked in a psycho ward for years. She always told me that you should do what's unexpected in a situation. And there's only one thing that came out of my mouth at that time. It was the only thing that came to my head. I looked at him and I said, so, what about the price didn't you like? He burst out laughing, and he looked at me, and he goes, well, I tell you what, he goes, I'm cooking meth downstairs, you know, that's kind of why it reeks a little bit in the house, and he said, the police are coming, they're going to be here now in about 2 minutes. And I looked at him and I said, oh, I think it's probably a good time for me to leave. And he looks at me, and he goes, yeah, go ahead. He was trying to figure out whether there was an advantage to hold me as a hostage. That's all I could think of. And because I made him laugh, he let me go. I became human in his eyes for those few short moments. I, of course, packed up the quickest I have ever packed up. Got in the car, raced down. The police cars are coming down one way. I'm already dialing 911 and tell him that he's armed and he's planning on defending himself. There was a shootout that day, and I'm going to tell you that was a listing I didn't want. You know, it doesn't take much. You don't need your brokers to tell you that, okay?